Hi, you're listening to I Am a Pain Patient with Marianne. Again, I'm back. A hard-won, hard-fought return is where we're at. And I am like basking in this victory lap because everything about me is tight right now. But that's okay. A flared up nervous system does not mean that I can't be a content creator, because here we are. If you followed last week, I launched 2 new episodes. I needed kind of like a little bit of a bridge back into this. I was feeling a little bit flared up around coming back to the podcasting arena. And so I took a couple of talks that I'd given at my workplace and repurposed them as podcast episodes, because it is still content that is relevant to you, my dear listeners. And so we launched an episode on finding a therapist that works for you, with a thorough checklist that you can review and kind of cross-examine what your needs are and find something that works for you. And then we posted a podcast episode on sleep. And I've been promising a podcast episode on sleep since day one, I do believe. So I finally got to follow through and give you guys that promised podcast episode on sleep. So I hope you guys got a chance to listen. So this is my formal bridge back into the pain science content. And I wanted to just take a minute and talk about why there was such a long hiatus from content. I was so passionate. I was so present. I was doing it like every day, or really like once a week. I would sit down and I would record 4 or 5 episodes at a time to launch during the week, starting in the fall of 2022. And then in January of 2023, I just stopped because I had come home from Christmas vacation with my family after my mom had been diagnosed again with cancer. She had peritoneal cancer this time around. First time was ovarian. We came home from that trip to a burst pipe on our 2nd story. And I've told the story in my Instagram and my Facebook accounts, but I've never formally told it here on the podcast. And so we were displaced for 3 months in 2023, so January through March. I was in charge of all the things, like getting us back into our home, restoring our property, fighting with insurance. I had to use every single skill I've ever learned. As always, my sweet cherubs will walk in and out because it is summer break, full-on summer break. Displaced for 3 months. I had to use every skill I've ever learned in my lifetime to make it through that insurance claim and get my family back home. And this was in the winter in northwest suburbs of Chicago. Like, there were snow days that I was driving from our little mobile home that they placed us in during the displacement to our home that was being refinished, and I would shovel inches and inches of snow that was like heavy and damp, and I have all these memories of just being sweaty and hot and cold at the same time, just bizarro. While like Cassie was sleeping in the car, or Cassie and Valerie probably were sleeping in the car, because I just had to do what I had to do. And it became more and more obvious and more evident that just about everything in our joint living scenario was falling on my plate. And I was tired. We get home, and then about 3 months later, we moved. So we had decided that, the house was just updated. I was feeling really run down as a person. I had been depressed since December of 2021. So like full year of depression at that point. And I needed like my people back. And so my people happened to live in the Peoria area. So we moved back down here, bought a home in a beautiful neighborhood, lovely setting. It was 1.5 acres of wooded property, year-long maintenance with the leaves and the snow and all the things. And then the interior of the house was 2,400 square feet, way more than we'd ever had. And so we moved with hope for wellness, hope for a future, hope for everyone to kind of get back to a baseline of healthy. And 1 month after we moved, my family suffered an incident of domestic violence between my now ex-husband and my oldest daughter. It's been 2 years since the incident. So much healing has taken place. And if you remember from previous episodes, my modus is that I own my story before I share my story. And so I have taken my time to be broken. I've taken my time to heal, and I own my story. And so now I'm back. I'm back to podcasting because I don't have to be afraid of those little lines of hardship that are now going to color the content going forward. That being afraid that they might flare me up. They're not going to flare me up at this point. I'm so at peace with where we're at now. We just sold that home that was too big with the lot that was too big. And I took care of that home for 2 years as a single mother of 3 young children. At the time of the separation, my oldest was 4, middle was 3, youngest was 2. Yeah, it was a lot. And now I've got a 6-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 4-year-old. And so we're in a very different season now. Like two months after the incident, 2 of my girls started going to preschool, and that just like drastically changed our dynamics as a family, and for the better, where like space was created for the first time since I had babies. And I have a beautiful therapist whom I love and work really well with, who encourages and uplifts me and restores that dignified gaze I have on myself. I spent 8 months following the incident retraining my brain and like combating my own internal critic, which had gotten incredibly loud, incredibly forceful, and just very hard to tamp down. So that work of battling my own internal critic was incredibly foundational for the health and the wellness I feel in this new season. And so, as you've noticed on Instagram, I am launching a new wing of content, Internal Critic Boot Camp, where I argue with my own internal critic on your behalf. This first 18 episodes are from the perspective of Enneagram numbers. I'm going to do love languages. I'm going to do temperaments. I'm going to do Myers-Briggs, that's the one, sorry. And I'll do working geniuses. So all the ways that our internal critics kind of interact with every sphere that we inhabit, and the ways that we can just call it out straight out that, no, I don't have to believe my internal critic right now. I'm going through a lot. And just because I forgot a receipt for something I wanted to return, apparently, at Menards doesn't mean that I failed as a person, okay? All right, so woundedness begets healing and ownership of my own story. And so at this point, I am more myself for having suffered than I was even previous to my marriage. And honestly, like when I got married, I was the healthiest I've ever been. I had conquered neck pain. I was living at a 1 on the pain scale instead of an 8. So I was living my best life. I was getting out there, I was doing all the things. And and then I got married to the wrong person. And I do still love my ex-husband, who is the father of my children, and I will not speak ill of him anywhere. And reporting a fact of something that happened at a moment in time without passing judgment either way it's not me dragging him through the mud. It's just something happened. Okay. So during this hiatus, I used my podcasts. I downloaded all my podcasts and I put them into Microsoft 365. Oh my gosh. That is like a really great product. Again, not a sponsor, but a great product, because I could upload my podcasts and tell it to transcribe them. And now I'm halfway through a pain science book. And so the goal here is to use this next wave of podcast content in order to write the rest of the book. Because I really love the voice of the book now. Like, I wrote it at one point and it was stale. It was just not warm or inviting. And now that I've been able to conversationally tell this story and give this content, it's a lot more exciting, a lot more interesting, more dynamic, and I'm really excited to continue this work. So we're back, and I'm so happy. Some of the tools that I used during this hiatus would be, I mentioned therapy. I've got an amazing therapist. Therapy helps you heal from the past. Okay. Spiritual direction, which I do have a spiritual director also, just all the things. But a spiritual director can help you plan for and discern your future. And so I have a spiritual director who's been a father to me for many years. And the last time I saw him, I drove to his new parish, which is about an hour away, and I sat down at his desk in his new office and watched him open mail like I used to. It was so good. But we talked, and he'll sit back and he'll listen, and then he'll be like, no, you're wrong. It's this. And I just love that. I need that kind of really intense feedback because I'm an intense person. Okay. And then the arena of coaching is something I'm getting into now as well. And coaching is about achieving your goals and your dreams in the present moment. And embracing the idea that the Lord has plans to prosper you. There is a coaching certification that I'm itching to sign up for, and I'm getting there, I promise. And it's out of Australia, and I love Australian medicine. I love Australian medicine. 1 in 5 Australians has chronic pain. Okay? And so the pain science textbook that my chiropractor / physical therapist lent to me that began this whole journey and all this content was written by 2 Australians who are studying pain, and they're geniuses. So there is a coaching certification that I can go through. There's like 8-month or 10, 12. I mean, I got to figure out what timing is going to work for my life because I am a single mom of 3 kids. I work 30 hours a week remotely as an accountant, and my creativity is back. And so I have all this energy I have to get out of me somehow. So I'm letting myself dwell for a while, at least for the summer, before I make any big decisions about that. But I will keep you informed, because if I do launch a coaching career, I want to hang out with all of you, because let's just reach all the goals, man. I just want everyone to fulfill their potential and get into that zone where they really feel in their bones the Lord has plans to prosper them, and he intends to fulfill that promise. Okay? So thank you for joining me on this return to the podcast. And I can't wait to continue with you all down this journey of discovery, of neuroscience, pain science, and stepping into that potential that we all have to be our best selves.